Okay, Miss Mikami, I invite you to have a close look at this schedule. This schedule outlines all the necessary preparation steps that you need to consider before your deadlines. Now, to help orient you and help you understand what this schedule says, at the top, along the horizontal axis, you can see a timeline of sorts. Now, on the rightmost edge is your application deadline. And then counting backwards towards the left, you can see 2 months before your deadline, 4 months before, 6 months before, and so on. Now, right now, we're about 6 months before the likely application deadlines will start arriving for your MBA programs. Okay? So have a look at the 6-month point, and then let's go down the vertical axis and discuss all the steps that you need to consider. So the first thing to consider is this long blue bar. And this blue bar represents your experience, both academic and professional experience. Now, because you're applying to MBA programs, the admissions committees are going to be very interested in your professional background. And generally, MBA program applicants have at least 3 years of professional work experience before they enter the program. So from that standpoint, you're looking really good. By the time you enter the program, you'll have about 4.5 years of professional experience. But the kind of experience also matters to admissions committees. And typically, MBA admissions committee members will be looking or hoping for some background in your business experience with teamwork, leadership, managerial roles. So I know that pharmaceutical sales can be fairly independent. Do you have any opportunities to play a leadership role, to manage a team, to work with team members?
Well, for my current job, not really, because the sales job is just like visit my clients and sell our products. So basically, I'm always usually alone, and it's pretty much individual job.
Okay, so that sounds like a pretty familiar explanation with sales reps. Between now and when you apply, you've got about 5 to 6 months to play around with. And during that time, if in your job you see opportunities to work with team members on some kind of project, even if it's a small project, admissions committees will respond favorably to information about teamwork background or a teamwork experience. They're not looking for you to already be an incredible manager. Otherwise, you wouldn't need an MBA, right? But they are looking for some indication that you can work well with others. And ideally, if you can be a leader of some small project, that would also be great. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay,
Great,
terrific.
yeah.
Let's move on to the next step. Okay, the next step in the preparation schedule is related to the 2 standardized tests that are necessary to be admitted to MBA programs. These tests are the TOEFL IBT exam as well as the GMAT exam. Now earlier you had mentioned that your current best score on the TOEFL is 90 points. Well, ideally, to get into a top MBA program, admissions committees will be looking for a TOEFL score minimum of 108 points, okay? So that should be your goal, that should be your target in order to feel confident about being considered at a top school. Also, they'll be looking for individual section scores of over 25 points. So right now, you have 25 in the reading, 23 in the listening, 19 in the speaking, and 23 in the writing. So you want to bring all of those individual section scores up and above 25 to feel confident about your admissions chances, and a total score of over 108. As for the GMAT, earlier you mentioned that your GMAT score is 640 with an AWA score of 4.0. Well, for top MBA programs, admissions committees will be looking for a rough minimum score of around 680 and 4.5 or above on the AWA section. But these kinds of minimum scores on the GMAT are a bit looser than the TOEFL minimum score requirements, and they will depend on the particular MBA program that you're applying to. So in order to get a better idea of the specific minimum score requirements on the GMAT, for the schools that you're applying to, one useful website to visit is the website of businessweek.com. So let me show you how this works. Here's the main page for finding the full-time MBA ranked listing of programs in the US and abroad. So let's take the London Business School as an example, since that's one of the programs that you said you were interested in. So if we click on the London Business School link, that will bring us to a page with lots of very useful information about their MBA program. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, you'll see this small section on GMAT scores. Are applicants required to take the GMAT? Yes. Then there's GMAT scores, the mean and median numbers, but the most important numbers for our purposes here are these middle 80% range of GMAT scores, from 640 to 750. What this means is that 80% of successful applicants to London Business School's MBA program scored somewhere between 640 and 750. So for practical purposes, the minimum score that admissions committee at London Business School would be looking for is 640. Make sense? Okay, let's go on. Okay, going back to our preparation schedule outline, the next and most obvious step is to actually choose which schools that you want to apply to. And I've already shown you the Business Week website. That's a really good place to start looking for top-ranked MBA programs in the UK and in the States. Another good website to investigate is the US News and World Report website, so let me show that to you briefly. So here is US News and World Report's website on the best business schools in the United States. And you can go directly to the rankings of, the overall rankings of the best business schools, or you can look in these individual business specialties like accounting, entrepreneurship, finance, management, and so on. Since you do a lot of sales at Kyohako Kirin, you might check out the marketing list, okay? So all of these ranked lists will help you find various programs in the United States that might meet your particular needs for an MBA program. Now hopefully you'll have decided on which schools that you want to apply to about 4 months before your deadline, which means that you should probably be deciding on which schools to apply to within the next couple of months. Ideally, of course, you also want to pass the minimum scores on the TOEFL and the GMAT as quickly as possible, because as you can see on this preparation schedule, the remaining steps are related to the application documents themselves, specifically things like the application essay, the letters of recommendation, and the resume, as well as the application forms. And regardless of whether you decide to do these on your own, or use our services, or use the services of another company, you want to leave several months in advance of your deadlines to prepare all of these documents as thoroughly and perfectly as possible, which means that you want to get these initial preparation steps, things like school selection and the standardized test scores, out of the way as quickly as you can.